about medicines and how they work. And I use that to basically take you back to the cause of your health condition. And when we do that, we make it easier for you to understand healthcare. I come in between the health system and the general public so that I bridge the gap between healthcare and the public. So that's what I do. Yeah.
Good. And your people are here camping and clapping for you. They've come from your page. They're like, hey, my doctor, my doctor. They're all here
I
for
know.
you. I'm
I know. Thank
assuming,
you. Thank
yes.
you.
Yeah. So now, the reason okay, it's good for people to also know that we are talking to a certified doctor. Betty is not certified and she's not paid. So I
But
like to
she's
use
better.
that
She's better than most doctors.
Yeah.
She's better than
Thank
most
you.
doctors. Trust me, because what doctors do, they just regurgitate the syllabus and they act as a conveyor belt of misinformation.
Yes.
You're doing better because yours is practical.
Yes. Now,
Yeah.
I've gotten so many comments, because I did intermittent fasting and I have been promoting it and I've been telling people this is the thing. You want to lose weight? Personally, I have tried. I told you my story, and I think my
Yeah.
people know my story. There's nothing I have not tried to lose weight. Okay? I have done those slimming teas. I have done slimming pills like over a duration of 8 years, because I told I was overweight for a period of like 8 years. Tried
Yeah.
everything. Some things I can't even talk about here, but anyway, I have tried it all. The only thing, some of those diets would work. I wouldn't say they didn't work. Even those
Yeah.
pills, sometimes they would work because for some reason now they take away the cravings. For some reason you will not feel hungry, you won't think about food, you won't eat, you lose weight. But then again, it does not change you. You're still the same person. The moment you stop taking those pills, then what happens? You go back to your bad eating habits and the weight comes back and shoots even upwards. Okay?
Yeah.
So now, intermittent fasting is the only thing, intermittent fasting and changing the kinds of foods that I eat. Those are the only thing the only things that enabled me to lose 33 kgs and within a period of just 7 months. Okay, like I went on it full force. So I decided, I said, I'm doing advocacy for this. I'll tell people, I'll shout on top of the mountains and tell people intermittent fasting is the easiest and the fastest, the quickest, the least expensive, actually saves you money way of losing weight. All right. So,
Yeah.
and then I get a lot of comments from doctors, nurses, nutritionists telling me that is the wrong way of going about it. The best way to lose weight is eating everything in moderation. So I have one video that I did of foods that I decided to be avoiding during my weight loss process, like the likes of ugali, mchele, fruits. Hey, fruits, kuna mtu karibu anikujie, anichape, like I tell people, these are the kind of things I did not eat. If you go to that video even now, you're going to find a lot of nutritionists, and a lot of doctors and nurses telling me that is not a sustainable way of losing weight. People are supposed to eat everything in moderation. Now, you are a doctor. Okay? What is your comment about my way of weight loss and me advocating for people to do intermittent fasting for as many hours as you can? If you can do 150 hours, if you can do a whole 7 days of water fasting, I would say go for it. What would you say what would you say about that?
Good question. Now, as we said, the essence of fasting is to lower insulin so that you get into fat burning more than fat storing.
Yes.
So that's the major essence of doing this. Now, we have different types of fasting. One is that intermittent fasting, and then the second one we have the prolonged periodic fasts. Now, when you're on intermittent fasting, this is for people who are actually this is the way of life. 2 meals a day is enough. Most people do well with 1 meal a day, and that's just okay. But for the prolonged periodic fasts, the 48-hour fast, the 72, and then some go to 120. I actually advocate for about 5 days of fasting. That's 120 hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
At maximum. The reason is we need to also protect your kidneys.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to protect your kidneys from this. So unless you have a chronic condition, a severe chronic condition, and this is very helpful. Water fast for 5 days and above. That's for people who have tumors and cancer, because you want them to totally switch their systems and get back to normal. Because hii chakula tunakula every time, that's abnormal. So the bodies were designed to eat, digest, rest, and then expect more food now.
Wait, question. You said
Yes.
water
Yes.
fast for 5 days is advisable for people with cancer.
Even beyond 5 days, yes.
So you're saying actually fasting is a method, is a treatment for cancer
For
patients.
cancer. Yes.
Wow,
Ask me
people,
why.
did you hear that, people? Intermittent fasting is a treatment for cancer patients. So now tell us,
Yes, it is.
continue, please. I just needed people to understand that bit because I have been talking about it, but very in a reserved manner because I feel it's a very sensitive topic to address, especially if I do not have any certifications. Yeah, but
Yeah,
yeah,
we'll talk
just
about it.
to highlight
We'll talk
that part.
about the benefits of fasting in cancer. So don't worry. So
Awesome.
now,
Yeah.
we if you're doing it for just weight loss,
Mhm.
you see, mwili kwanza, if you're obese or you're overweight, you have a lot of fat, you have a lot of energy, only that you don't know, and only that
Yes.
your system has become addicted to
Mhm.
food. So you can do a 72-hour fast every month, just once a month. That's okay. But a 48-hour fast can happen every weekend or every week because in our survival mechanisms, before I even explain that, people
Yes.
think that we get energy
Mhm.
from what we just ate. That is a misconception that needs to be corrected.
Mhm.
Understand this. I told you that you need to eat, then mix this food with the HCl in the stomach, then digest it, and then forward it to the small intestines for absorption. And then this food has to go to the portal vein and all the way to the liver. And in the liver, there's detoxification, there is assimilation, and all this. And then either it's stored or it's sent where it's supposed to go. So this process will take about 8 to 12 hours. So if you eat now, you need 8 to 12 hours to get energy from that food.
Yeah.
So my Mjengo people who always tell me, when I eat ugali now I feel energetic. Where are you getting that energy? And you're telling us you cannot fast because energy comes from burning fat, not what you just ate.
Yes.
So that has to be corrected. The only thing that happens when somebody says ati nikikula napata nguvu is because you stretch the stomach wall. Once you
Yeah.
stretch the stomach wall, and then
Uh-huh.
there's a direct relation between the stomach and the brain. So there's a message that is sent through the vagus nerve to the brain, and it tells the brain, hey, there is new energy coming
Yes.
in the next 8 to 12 hours. So now the brain instructs the liver to burn all the glycogen to prepare room for new energy because you
Yes.
have to store for you to burn it. Because hata wewe unajua, if you go to the supermarket to buy foods, wale ambao bado wanaenda supermarket, or if you go to the markets and buy food and
Mhm.
come with it nyumbani and your refrigerator is full,
Mhm.
do you start using hii chakula umebuy saizi or the one in the refrigerator?
The one in the fridge, obviously.
That is exactly how the body works. You need to clear the stores for you to bring in something new to store because fast in, fast out.
So, question. So, those people who are
Yes.
like, I have to eat something like pre-workout meal. So, you're telling me pre-workout meals are useless?
One of the useless things ever to exist in our gyms.
Meskia, personal fitness. And now people, you're like,
Actually,
they tell you, eat well before you come. Eat heavy carbohydrates before you come to the gym so you can be able to lift. So it means if
and
you
then
eat, you can't use that energy for another 8 hours. That's what you're telling me.
and then you go into constipation because you've actually rushed the digestion process. You push the food without even mixing it with HCl into the small intestines. That's why people are suffering from duodenal ulcers because that food comes with HCl forwarded to the small intestine. Now you're straining your pancreas to produce bicarbonates to neutralize that acid.
Wow.
So that becomes a serious problem. Why would you eat when you're going to the gym when we know that in the gym you're actually going to do activities, to mimic activities that we used to do kitambo that we don't do now? Pushing, pulling, bending, squatting, all this. So in the gym you're not going for fun. You're not going for any power.
Yeah.
Haujawahi enda shambani kulima utoke shambani kama umeunga kifua. Si ndio?
Mm. Yeah, of
Tunaenda
course.
shambani because it's a role. So since
Yeah.
hatuendi shambani anymore, we take
Yeah.
that to the gym. That's why you go to do deadlifts. That's why you go to do squats.
Yeah,
So you're
true.
actually supposed to use the gym to mimic activities that you used to do and then get into a caloric deficit state. How will
Yeah.
you get into a caloric deficit state when your stomach is full?
Wow, I get that
This
because
is when
people ask me how I manage to work out when fasted because most of my workouts are fasted. I'll be fasting for even 48 hours and I'm in the gym and I still have that energy, So people ask
most
me,
people should work
how
out
do
in the
you
morning.
manage? Huh?
Yeah, people should actually embrace working out in the morning because at this moment in time, you have energy already and the system is already producing that energy through counter-regulatory hormones. So you wake up and you go out, you're energetic, you go lift those weights, because fasted workouts are the best. They maximize outcomes.
Wow.
Fasted exercises are the best.
I
So
was
don't
doing it,
eat
but
and
I
go
didn't
to
know
the
why.
gym. Yeah.
I was doing it, but I didn't really understand until today. I did not understand that the body, I mean, the food that you eat takes about 8 hours for it to be utilized. I didn't know that. Thank you for
Yeah.
that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so I think you've answered that question. I've been asked so many times, but I've never been able to give the correct answer. So thank you.
You've seen people in the gym vomiting after squatting.
Not really.
Yeah,
But
people go
but
to
I
the
do
gym.
know
Actually,
when I eat, then go to the gym,
yeah,
I know I do not do my best.
zero productivity.
Yeah.
Will your body struggle to help you rejuvenate the cells, or will your body struggle to digest this food faster for you to get? Why are people this way though? But I think this also as a result of gym instructors who don't have any information about anatomy, physiology, and diets. Look at
True.
this gentleman called Ugaliman. The gentleman has a pot belly, lifts
Yeah.
heavy,
Yeah.
but has followers. Every time people are following him,
Yeah.
when he comes out of the gym, you've attained a caloric deficit state. So you are getting into fat burning.
Yeah.
Perfect state. But what do? You eat a whole load of ugali and then go back to zero.
Yeah.
So how will you miss out on a pot belly? And look at gym trainers. Most of them have pot bellies. Most of them are not shredded. They are just big.
Yeah.
So
True.
people think you go to the gym to become big. No, you go to the gym to shred, to strengthen your muscles, for men to boost testosterone, to balance your hormones, and to mimic activities that we used to do traditionally that we don't do now because of sedentarism. Because everybody is now on TV and phones and stuff. So you
Yeah.
need to do those things. Yeah.
Now tell me, what is the difference between fasting
Hmm.
and starvation?
Fasting and starvation. Starvation is basically there was no food, so you have no option. Fasting is you've taken a this is actually you had an option, but you didn't go for it.
Mhm.
And again, starvation is when your body is getting into malnutrition, so you don't have any nutrients, kabisa, you're getting into malnutrition. But fasting is a normal physiological function of the body, so that you burn fat, so that you create room for storage and therefore maintain blood sugars. So if you don't have blood sugars, you burn fat to give you glucose. So it's a normal physiology. It's not starving. Starving is you don't have food, you don't have an option, and then now the body has exhausted all the micronutrients that can give you energy or the glucose, and then now what else? Turns to muscles, start wasting your muscles.
So how long does it take for your body to move from the fasted state to now
Mhm.
starvation? How long will you
That-
have
that-
stayed without food for you to transition from fasting to starvation?
all of us have different types of bodies, all of us have different types of fat and body fat, so it depends with an individual.
Uh-huh.
So, like for instance, for somebody who is fat adapted, they'll easily get into starvation if they prolong a fast beyond 120 hours. You see, but somebody who is carbohydrate dependent, they've been eating. So actually, I think so they've been storing in a storage mode all the time. So it will take some time. That's why an obese person will take longer before they die.
Mhm. So someone is
If they
Smart Collections is asking, what's the maximum number of days one should fast?
There is no maximum as such. Depends with your health goals. So if you're just trying to lose weight, you're trying to lead a healthy life, a 48-hour fast is very important for you, maybe weekly or every after 2 weeks. A
Yeah.
72-hour fast once a month. But on a daily, TUMAD or OMAD is the best, is the way of life. And then just drop morning breakfast. You don't need it.
So for
But for
guys who
somebody who
do
is
not
targeting
understand
recovery
two,
from cancer and
yeah,
tumors, then you can
yeah.
go beyond 120 hours water fast and salt.
Okay. So for those who do not understand, two mad means 2 meals a day. So you are either
Yeah.
taking breakfast and lunch, or lunch and dinner. Not 2 meals a day. You take breakfast, skip lunch, then do dinner. Right? I'm right, right? Okay.
It depends with your schedule,
Or
because there are people who don't.
you can still
Actually,
do.
the reality is,
Mhm.
you see, when you eat in the evening,
Yes.
that food, by the time you reach midday, you have
Yeah.
converted it into fat, and now it's ready to be converted into energy. So you can, if you eat at 8 in the evening, you can go until the next day at noon. So your first
Yes.
meal will come in at noon. And also remember this: the
Mhm.
reason why men wake up with an erect penis is because of high testosterone in the system, and testosterone is part of the counter-regulatory hormones.
Mhm.
So the biological clock dictates that at around 4 a.m. to all the way to 9 a.m., you
Mhm.
are actually producing counter-regulatory hormones. And this is the cortisol, which is the stress hormone. This is the glucagon, which is actually a hormone that acts opposite to insulin, so it will help you burn fat. And this is the adrenaline. And these hormones, what they are doing is they are preparing you for the new day already. Okay, so cortisol is preparing you for a stressful day, and so it will handle that. And then glucagon is preparing you for low energy, so it pumps glucose, the glycogen from the liver into glucose into the system. Now you have high glucose in the system. And then for adrenaline, for you to be alert.
Yes.
So this is what is happening in the morning. So therefore, any form of glycogen that is stored in the liver is released as glucose in blood in the morning. That's why people don't wake up hungry. The only reason why we take morning breakfast, and I'm underlining the word morning breakfast.
Yes.
The reason why we do that is because we found our parents doing it and we got accustomed to it. And Nestle, the food industry that prepares your breakfast table, came out with a strategic marketing strategy telling you that morning breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
Yeah, eat breakfast like a king.
Exactly. So this is the marketing strategy, and we fail for that marketing strategy.
Yes.
That is not true. So you can push your morning breakfast or your breakfast all the way to noon, and then from noon you have another gap all the way to 6:30 to 8:30 when the biological clock sets down.
Okay. So someone is asking, I didn't get their name. They were asking, how do you fast when you have ulcers? Because the doctors, most of them come to me also and they tell me that the doctor says they cannot be on an empty tummy, so they have to keep on munching things, so they're unable to fast because they have gastritis or they have hyperacidity or they have ulcers. Please talk about it.
Fire your doctor if they tell you to eat several times when you have ulcers, because because
Yes.
because remember this, you got ulcers because of eating what you've been eating. So if the doctor tells you to keep on eating, he's actually an agent of the big pharma, and he wants you to go back for a refill of the prescription of anti-ulcer drugs, which,
Yes.
by the way, they totally mess the stomach pH. Never take drugs for ulcers. Antacids, G proton pump inhibitors, H2 antagonists. Stay away from those drugs because they mess up your stomach pH, and that will be a problem in protein digestion. That will cause you more ulcers. That will cause you H. pylori induced ulcers, because H. pylori appreciates a basic environment. So anything that will alter the stomach acidity will help H. pylori to manifest.
Yeah.
That's why you take those drugs, and then when you go back to do H. pylori test, it turns positive because the obvious reasons. So listen, when you get food into your stomach, there is this mixing that causes peristaltic movement of the stomach. Can you imagine you already have an ulcer, and then now you're having these peristaltic movements in the stomach? You're actually opening up the wound. Even if you're inajaribu kuheal, you're opening it up. That is one. Number two, if your meal is high in protein, that means you'll start producing HCl in preparation for breakdown of that food. That HCl will burn that wound severely. Number three, when you stop eating, you heal inflammation. Fasting heals inflammation. And gastritis, any word that ends with TIS, is inflammation. So gastritis, which chronic gastritis leads to an ulcer, is healed by fasting. So anybody who is advising you on intermittent fasting for ulcer treatment and management, shake their hand. Anybody who is telling you to eat 5 meals and drink milk and take antacids, this is somebody who is actually propagating the agenda of the big pharma and the food industry. Whip them in the eyes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
tell me, just explain this to me because I had ulcers, yeah? I don't know whether I still have it or not, but I was on medication for ulcers and gastritis for the longest time. That like I was taking Nexium from 20 mg, or it was bumped up to 40 mg daily. I was taking that Nexium. I was walking around with Actotams because I was always getting heartburn, all right? So
Yeah.
33 kgs lighter. Having
Yeah.
practiced intermittent fasting, I still do it occasionally. I achieved my weight loss goals, yeah. So I still do it. I still do my TUMAD or OMAD and so on and so forth. But suddenly, at around, I can't even remember when, but somewhere along my weight loss journey, I was no longer needing medication for ulcers. I no longer needed medication for the heartburn or for gastritis. So what could have happened to me that, because I tell people now I am healed. I have never gone back to get checked. Okay, but I don't take the medication. I do not have the need to take medication. So does it mean that intermittent fasting and changing the foods that I ate, or quitting the inflammatory foods, does it mean it healed my ulcers, or what could have happened to me?
First things first, what is causing gastritis and ulcers? I've explained this in my videos on my YouTube about ulcers and how it comes to happen. But just know this. There are foods that cause systemic and local inflammation in the system. These are the three foods. Sugar in all forms, including fruits and honey. Wheat products, all wheat products, whether whole or processed. Number three is, what else? Seed oils. How can I forget that? Seed oils, aka vegetable oils. So these are the foods that cause systemic and local inflammation in your system, and this is what's causing people all these problems and the gut issues. So anytime, because remember, the stomach is supposed to have highly concentrated HCl, a pH of around 1 to 2. This can melt a spoon. If you swallow a spoon, it can easily be melted. That HCl exists for several reasons. Number one, it is a primary layer of immunity. So any bacteria, any microorganism, any foreign particle that is coming in with food will be cleared by that HCl, including those people who eat meat and tell me about brucellosis. You cannot blame bacteria for surviving in meat. It has to be there. But now you have HCl to clear that. So that HCl exists because of that. Also, number two, that HCl exists because of tearing down larger molecules of proteins into smaller molecules of protein, so that you tear them even further by proteases, the enzymes, into amino acids for you to absorb. Number three, there is a sphincter that closes the stomach and the esophagus. That sphincter is called the cardiac sphincter. So when you have stomach acid highly concentrated, that sphincter closes because the body knows if this acid comes back, it will burn your esophagus.
Yeah.
So that sphincter closes. And this happens when you're fasting. This happens when you have eaten a high protein diet, because you concentrate your stomach acid for digestion, and now you close this sphincter, so nothing comes from the stomach back into the gut, into the esophagus, what we call the GERD, the gastroesophageal reflux disease. Most of you know it as the reflux disease.
Yeah.
But take an antacid to neutralize that stomach pH. Take sugar, take wheat products, take alcohol, take medicines. They neutralize that stomach pH, and now the pH starts to rise, headed to neutral and into the basic environment. What happens? You have altered the normal physiology of the stomach. So this sphincter opens up, and drink milk and take antacids. This is somebody who is actually propagating the agenda of the big pharma and the food industry. Whip them in the eyes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
tell me, just explain this to me, because I had ulcers, yeah? I don't know whether I still have it or not, but I was on medication for ulcers and gastritis for the longest time. That, like, I was taking Nexium from 20 mg, or it was bumped up to 40 mg daily. I was taking that Nexium. I was walking around with Actoterms because I was always getting heartburn, all right? So,
Yeah.
33 kgs lighter. Having
Yeah.
practiced intermittent fasting, I still do it occasionally. I achieved my weight loss goals, yeah. So I still do it. I still do my TUMAD or OMAD and so on and so forth. But suddenly, at around, I can't even remember when, but somewhere along my weight loss journey, I was no longer needing medication for ulcers. I no longer needed medication for the heartburn or for gastritis. So what could have happened to me that, because I tell people now I am healed. I have never gone back to get checked. Okay, but I don't take the medication. I do not have the need to take medication. So does it mean that intermittent fasting and changing the foods that I ate, or quitting the inflammatory foods, does it mean it healed my ulcers, or what could have happened to me?
First things first, what is causing gastritis and ulcers? I've explained this in my videos on my YouTube about ulcers and how it comes to happen. But just know this. There are foods that cause systemic and local inflammation in the system. These are the three foods. Sugar in all forms, including fruits and honey. Wheat products, all wheat products, whether whole or processed. Number three is, what else? Seed oils. How can I forget that? Seed oils, aka vegetable oils. So these are the foods that cause systemic and local inflammation in your system, and this is what's causing people all these problems and the gut issues. So anytime, because remember, the stomach is supposed to have highly concentrated HCl, a pH of around 1 to 2. This can melt a spoon. If you swallow a spoon, it can easily be melted. That HCl exists for several reasons. Number one, it is a primary layer of immunity. So any bacteria, any microorganism, any foreign particle that is coming in with food will be cleared by that HCl, including those people who eat meat and tell me about brucellosis. You cannot blame bacteria for surviving in meat. It has to be there. But now you have HCl to clear that. So that HCl exists because of that. Also, number two, that HCl exists because of tearing down larger molecules of proteins into smaller molecules of protein, so that you tear them even further by proteases, the enzymes, into amino acids for you to absorb. Number three, there is a sphincter that closes the stomach and the esophagus. That sphincter is called the cardiac sphincter. So when you have stomach acid highly concentrated, that sphincter closes because the body knows if this acid comes back, it will burn your esophagus.
Yeah.
So that sphincter closes. And this happens when you're fasting. This happens when you have eaten a high protein diet, because you concentrate your stomach acid for digestion, and now you close this sphincter, so nothing comes from the stomach back into the gut, into the esophagus, what we call the GERD, the gastroesophageal reflux disease. Most of you know it as the reflux disease.
Yeah.
But take an antacid to neutralize that stomach pH. Take sugar, take wheat products, take alcohol, take medicines. They neutralize that stomach pH, and now the pH starts to rise, headed to neutral and into the basic environment. What happens? You have altered the normal physiology of the stomach. So this sphincter opens up, and that is what we call a heartburn, because stomach contents start coming back into the esophagus. That is one. Number two, you will experience bloating and indigestion because high acid concentration is needed for you to break down protein. Number three, you will not miss out on H. pylori induced ulcers. Why? Because H. pylori, we can never avoid that microorganisms. It's actually becoming a normal flora. So he comes in through food, he comes in through water. So this means you have no control over him. But HCl will handle that because H. pylori loves basic pH. So when he gets into the stomach, he finds acidic pH. He cannot survive. He will die. So what does he do? He forms a temporary protein coat around himself, but he knows that that acid can easily digest this protein coat. So he just forms it temporarily and then burrows into the stomach wall quickly and hides there. And guess what? Since the stomach pH is highly concentrated, that wound or that ulcer will heal because it will disappear, because the role of HCl is also to maintain the stomach wall. So it will heal. But ole wako, go and take that antacid, go and take that PPI, go and take that ranitidine, the H2 antagonist. You will alter the environment of the stomach. And anytime that environment goes towards neutral or towards basic, you've created an environment for H. pylori survival. So he burrows back from hiding, comes back to conquer. He multiplies so fast because he has to survive. That is survival. So when he multiplies so fast, and then he multiplies to produce species that are mutated to avoid any other thing, including drugs. So this is resistant to these drugs.
Yeah. Let me
And
ask you a
then,
question. Who is meant to take these drugs? Because they have been produced, the antacids, eh? Who are they meant for?
just hold that
I know
question.
you're the wrong person to ask, eh? But
No,
who are they? Who are they
right
meant
person to ask. Just hold that question and ask me after I finish this. So
Okay,
now,
yeah.
he has multiplied and then increased in numbers and then mutated. So where are these guys going? These guys will start burrowing the stomach wall to create room that if this environment changes, because it's temporary, if the acid comes back, we need to use this exit to go into hiding.
Okay.
That is H. pylori induced ulcers.
Okay, I get it.
Now, these drugs were designed not for you. They were designed for the ignorant, because the big pharma comes in to help.
Quote unquote, yes.
Just the same way diabetes drugs were not designed to help anybody recover from diabetes, anti-ulcer drugs were not designed to help anybody recover from ulcers. They were designed to make you recover from the symptoms of ulcers, but the ulcer keeps on developing so that you come back, because they have to pay bills and they have to maintain relevance. It is marketing. And that is the reason why there is this thing called hyperacidity, which is a myth. Please, anybody who is listening, hyperacidity is a myth. There's nothing like hyperacidity, not unless you have a gastric cancer that causes production of HCl, because hyperacidity is high amounts of production of HCl. So if you have an ulcer, or if you have a tumor that is causing production of HCl, that is now considered as hyperacidity. So maybe that one, you need a PPI. to reduce the production of this acid. But hyperacidity is a myth. This is actually a myth that was propagated by the syllabus, and the syllabus is part of the big pharma so that we market these PPIs and the antacids and the H. pylori kits. Why? Because stomach environment is supposed to be acidic, and we do not measure the acid in the stomach by the amount, but by the concentration.
Okay, so someone is asking, thank you for
Yeah.
that, Doc. Someone is asking, is diabetes reversible?
101%.
Uh-huh.
Yes, type 2 diabetes is reversible. Type 1 diabetes is reversible. Dietary, exercise, and zero medications. There's another one that is called type 3 diabetes nowadays. The dementia, loss of memory, and Alzheimer's.
Yes.
Yeah, that's type 3 diabetes. Also reversible. And then we have gestational diabetes. Now, this word gestational diabetes is skewed because pregnancy only exposes your pre-diabetes into diabetes. So you're already pre-diabetic before you even got that pregnancy. Just the same way pregnancy exposes cravings. You've been eating carbohydrates all through. So pregnancy just augments that craving, and then you blame the pregnancy and not blame your habits.
Okay, okay. Someone is asking, if prolonged fasting, can prolonged fasting cure cancer stage 4?
Stage 4, you need chemo.
Oh, at that point, yeah?
But let me explain cancer to them.
Uh-huh.
So if you have cancer or a tumor, what you're doing is you got it because of a messed up mitochondria. So fasting, prolonged fasts help you recover from mitochondria damage, which is basically mitophagy. So you go into autophagy, which is cell cleansing and cell eating. It eats the dead organelle and cleans the cell and relieves the cell oxidative stress.
Yeah.
That is autophagy. But as you prolong the fast, you get into mitophagy, which means you clean up the mitochondria, which are the energy mechanisms or machinery of the cell. Now, cancer hails from a messed up mitochondria because of oxidative and metabolic stress in the mitochondria. So prolonged fast will help you recover from that. Also, if you're on chemo, prolonged fast will help you augment the actions of chemo and reduce the side effects of chemotherapy, because cancer does not, I think cancer does not kill these patients. Most people don't die from cancer, but most people die from side effects of chemotherapy. And also chemotherapy causes cancer as a side effect. So you treat cancer and then come back with cancer, come back with bone marrow suppression, come back with testicular suppression and stuff, and it's just a whole mess. But cancer feeds on two things. One is glucose, and two is glutamine. Glutamine is an amino acid that is present in literally all food, so you cannot avoid them.
Yeah.
But you can avoid glucose by going on a strictly zero carbohydrate diet. When you go on a zero carbohydrate diet, you deny cancer cells their energy, their fuel, which is glucose. And guess what? They start to die. And then when you prolong your fast, you get to produce ketone bodies as alternative sources of energy to glucose. What that means is ketone bodies, your body cells and your brain cells know how to utilize this, and they love ketone bodies. But it's hard to get there because you have to pay a price of fasting and healthy keto. So ketone bodies are the best energy sources of the body cells and the brain, not glucose.
Yeah.
The only reason why the brain appreciates glucose is because there is a reward system in form of dopamine, and also is because you continue eating carbohydrates every day, so you are used to eating carbohydrates, and the only energy source that you're giving the body is glucose. But when you break down fat and get ketone bodies, these ketone bodies, your body cells know how to utilize it, and your brain cells know how to utilize it. Guess what is interesting? Cancer cells don't know how to utilize ketone bodies, so you're killing them.
Okay, I get it
Yeah.
now. Now, other than cancer, and other than people who are fasting to lose weight, who else would you advise in relation to lifestyle diseases? Who else would you advise to go to start intermittent fasting to reverse either their lifestyle diseases or anything else other than cancer, that because we have talked about it, and other than weight loss, because I mean obesity, because we already know it does that, yeah? What else there in between?
So anybody who is suffering from the metabolic syndrome, anybody who has high lipids in the system, being told that you have high cholesterol and then started on drugs, don't take any drugs for cholesterol lowering, go on fasting. Anybody who has chronic condition, diabetes, hypertension, obesity, hyperlipidemia, kidney problems, go on fasting. Anybody who has inflammatory conditions like arthritis, like gout, anybody who is losing memory, anybody who has gut problems, inflammatory bowel syndrome, ulcerative colitis, indigestion, bloating, peptic ulcer disease, H. pylori, and all these gut problems, go on fasting because you will recover. Remember, the body has an innate, an inbuilt mechanism to fight aging and to fight diseases on its own without your help. And this innate mechanism is the most powerful drug, I'm putting that drug in quote, that has ever been known. But we have loaded our systems very bad foods, we have loaded our system with very bad lifestyles, and therefore this mechanism, this innate mechanism to fight diseases, has gone down. So once it goes down, now you have to survive on your own. You have to augment it. Also remember that drugs are supposed to be used, if like antibiotics, you use them to lower bacteria concentration to a certain level and then your immunity takes over.
Yeah.
But you have killed your immunity already through these bad foods. So what will take over? So that means you have to go on a higher dose of antibiotics. And that's how the system capitalizes on it. So if you are suffering from any chronic conditions, actually fasting is the first line therapy. Medicines and any other thing and surgeries come as the last option. But fasting and healthy keto, all conditions. And you can survive on foods without drugs. That's the point. The point is, fasting was not designed by me. Fasting is not supposed to be advised. Fasting is supposed to be something natural. It's supposed to happen.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
so
Good you mentioned that,
yeah.
yeah? Because now
Mhm.
I think we have told them they need to fast, yeah? So
Yeah.
how can somebody include fasting as part of their lifestyle? All these people, because they're all here, I can see a lot of questions. It's just that I can't read out all of them, yeah? So I've just grouped them in that one question. So how would you advise these people who are suffering from all these lifestyle ailments? How would you advise them to put to to adjust their life or their feeding lifestyle to include fasting that will aid in their healing?
First things first, you cannot start fasting when you're still eating inflammatory foods. So the three have to go. Drop sugar in all forms, including fruits and honey. The only fruit that is necessary for you is the avocado. And then and also the lemon, but the lemon nowadays wamefanya ile kitu. They adulterated it, so you can use lemon peels. They have high
Guys, I
content
eat
of
lemon
vitamin
every
C.
day, so it's not so good, eh?
You can do you blend it? Do you use the peels?
No, I
The
just
peels have
squeeze
the
out
highest
the
content of
juice.
vitamin C.
When raw or boiled.
No, vitamin C is thermolabile, which means it is destroyed by heat. So what you do, you chop the lemon. I know. The mistakes that happen all the time. So you cut
Yeah.
the lemon into small pieces and then soak it in warm water for about 10 minutes. And then now you can sieve and press.
Uh-huh.
And then you drink
Oh,
that juice.
then I drink the juice, yeah, when it has
Ah,
the
yeah.
lemon. So I've not been doing much. Okay, no, well, good to know. I have go on, please.
So the only fruit that is supposed to remain is basically lemon peels and an avocado. Number two, drop seed oils. Hiyo mafuta yenu ya kupika is useless. It is highly unsaturated, and the industrial manufacture of these seed oils goes through high refining, solvents, and high heat. And this is a problem because, again, from that, you'll still submit it to under or subject it under very high heat when you're dying to deep fry your things. Now, there's something that we learned in chemistry for those of you who sat in a high school class and understood chemistry, not for the sake of passing the exam, but for the sake of using it to better your
Uh-huh.
lives. There's something called rancidity, which basically means oxidation. So when you have a double bond in between carbon atoms, this is a weak bond. So it's harboring electrons that can easily oxidize to form reactive oxygen species that will cause you the cancer, that will cause you inflammation and all those conditions that you're going through. So change from seed oil stroke vegetable oil. They have no vegetable. The only vegetable oil that is known is extra virgin olive oil. And extra virgin olive oil cannot be used for cooking, can be used for top dressing because it still has one double bond. So it is mono unsaturated.
Wow. Uh-huh.
So what we need saturated fats, which are basically animal fats and coconut oil and avocado oil. So the ghee, the tallow, the butter, the lard, the sweat, then coconut oil. So just limit your life to ghee or tallow or coconut oil, period, for cooking. And then now once you've dropped those three, now you can now start a healthy life. You cannot start a healthy life without dropping these inflammatory foods. So once you drop them, and then now you can move to intermittent fasting and healthy keto. But remember, all of us are supposed to have a gap of at least 8 to 12 hours between meals because the gut has to eat digest, absorb, and then assimilate, and then store that energy. So that takes 8 to 12 hours, which means you need about 8 to 12 hours for the gut to also rest. So once you bring in new food, you will be breaking a fast. So that has to be 8 to 12 hours. So basically that takes you to only 2 meals a day.
Yes. So it means
so you compare 2 meals a day.
You drop all the wrong foods, which we've talked, just if I may summarize, we are talking about the sugars, we are talking about the wheat, the seed oils, isn't it? Among others, we'll get to that question where we'll be talking about the foods that people need to avoid. We'll get to that. So, but in the meantime, they need to get rid of that. Then they start practicing at the very least 2 meals a day. So whereby we are saying if you have your last meal at 8 p.m., then your next meal that should be tomorrow, not any time before noon.
Yes, skip morning breakfast is useless.
Basically, we are saying if you are trying to heal from these lifestyle diseases, change the kind of foods you eat and do not do breakfast. I think that is easy, right?
No, you can do breakfast, but not morning breakfast.
Not morning. Yeah, breakfast. In our understanding of breakfast, that is the food you eat in the morning between you wake up and noon.
Yeah.
But you can do your breakfast at noon.
Yes, you can break your fast at noon. That's effective.
You break your fast. You have your first meal of the day at noon, right? Then you do and then you don't snack in between. You have your second meal for dinner, right?
Yes. Yeah. And for you to be
not eating from noon until 6 p.m. You're just munching because it is
you're just eating because that is time restricted eating. You just eat all through. That's not healthy. If you have to snack on your groundnuts or your strawberries, then that has to be before you eat that meal.
Yes.
But I want you to understand this, when you're having this long fast from 8 to noon, your insulin levels are very low, Cindy. So once your insulin levels are low, you are into fat burning. So you don't want to spike that insulin at that moment in time, which means the meal that you're taking at noon is 0 carbs, strictly protein. So you can do your 4 to 8 eggs at this moment in time. You can do an avocado. You can do your liver. You can do your fish. You can do your fatty meats. So these foods have to be cooked in ghee. So they have to be fatty protein. And then vegetables plus an avocado.
Yes.
So at noon, for you to maintain that low insulin and continue with your fat burning, don't introduce any carb at this moment in time.
Yeah, then I have that group of people who will tell me that animal protein is very expensive. So what is the alternate food that they can do if you cannot afford animal protein, the meats, yeah? So is there any other cheaper methods of cheaper foods where you can derive protein from, like plant-based protein or something?
If somebody tells you that animal proteins are expensive, is not about the animal protein. It's the same way you tell somebody to buy ghee and they tell you ghee is expensive. But you look at their shopping basket, it has seed oils, it has wheat products, it has unga, it has juices.